Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm actually going to be talking about the tropes that when I see in books, these are the tropes that I hate. I hate these tropes. Now, I guess I should put a disclaimer up first. Every one of these tropes on this list can be done well. I am not going to just hate this trope on principle every time I see it. There are times that a trope can be done well. On one of these tropes, I'm actually going to show a couple of examples where I think the trope was done a lot better, but it's when I see writers use these tropes in this way that annoy me. 7 tropes that I don't like that we're going to talk about. So I've ranked them as best as I could from my small annoyances to the one that I hate the most. I tried to rank them as best as I could. Coming in at number 7 is fake or lazy diversity. This is where an author or writer, and it's not just in books either, will either give some side character or something a label, and it either just doesn't come into the story really, isn't relevant, but they just put this label on a character to say, oh, we've got a diverse cast of characters, and they don't, whether it's having a character be of a certain sexuality, and it's like, oh, we have, like, I guess the most recent example was, that I think of when they said that Lando in Solo was supposed to be pansexual. And I'm like, when is that relevant in the entire movie? When is his sexuality relevant to the story? Or when they made LeFou gay in Beauty and the Beast. It's not relevant to the story, so why put it there? And also another aspect that annoys me is when the only personality that they have is the label that they were given. Yeah, let's just make this character, for adding diversity, we're going to just make this character just be built on a bunch of stereotypes. Like if they're gay, they like fashion, and just other negative stereotypes, and it's just like, I want to see more depth put into these characters and not just have them being there just for the sake of saying that you have a diverse cast. And coming in at number 6 is kind of a personal one for me, and that is teacher-student relationships. I am a person that is heading into the education field, and it is starting to get to the point where these relationships are starting to make me uncomfortable. These relationships can be done better, but there are certain little checkpoints or check marks that I'm like, if any teacher-student relationship at all checks off any of these, you typically don't like the relationship. I don't like if the teacher is married, or if the age gap between the characters is uncomfortably large, especially if the character is still in high school. And plus, another aspect that did kind of ruin this trope for me is there's an episode of South Park where Ike gets into a relationship with his teacher, his kindergarten teacher, and there is a huge age gap between them, and in a way, I kind of think that the writers of the show were almost making fun of this trope, is that this is what we should be seeing every time we see one of these relationships. And yeah, it makes me very uncomfortable to see these relationships now, especially when I'm getting to the point where I'm not a 17-year-old girl anymore, and where I'm starting to get to be the same age as some of these teachers in these books. And number 5 for me is high school alternate universes, and this is where they usually will retell a story and just set it in a high school. That's why I probably will never ever read any of the Isle of the Lost books. Because in my mind, why would you take something creative and awesome and put it in a generic setting like a high school? And this is coming from somebody who's getting their degree to also work in a high school. And usually it's because they also don't do anything creative with the high school setting when I see characters do this, or authors do this. Coming in at number 4 is, I'm putting 2 tropes together, but it's because I hate them for the same reason, and because they are talked about so much in the booktube community, and that is insta-love and love triangles. I hate these for different reasons. It's mostly because it's lazy. It just feels like a lazy way to try and add tension, or why bother having 2 characters develop chemistry? Who wants to see that anyway? Yeah, let's see her be indecisive about 2 other guys, or have her immediately look at a guy and fall in love with him right away. Because that's what we want. And coming in at number 3 for me is, I couldn't find a particular name for this trope, and it is when a character isn't allowed to learn how to defend themselves, and it's usually for a stupid reason. When a character wants to learn how to defend themselves, typically it's a female, but for some reason either their love interest doesn't allow it or their controlling parents don't allow it. I think the best example I could think of, like in A Court of Mist and Fury, for me, the moment that I started to hate Tamlin was because Feyre, after the trauma she went through under the mountain, she wanted to learn how to fight. After the trauma she went through under the mountain, I wouldn't blame her. And Tamlin refuses to teach her how to fight because it wouldn't look good to the other members of the court if Feyre learned how to fight. It would look like they're just getting ready to fight another war. And Tamlin also is like, oh, I can protect you better than you can, Feyre. Feyre had help from Rhysand and Lucian. You didn't help her at all under the mountain. She was basically fighting Amarantha on her own. Do not throw this kind of crap at me. The other example is Vampire Academy. The big conflict with the book is that there's a big debate of whether or not Moroi, who are not the strongest vampires, but they have these magical abilities to fight the Strigoi. But they don't, because the Dampiers can do it better. Yes, because while we are armed with magical elements, I could probably set this Strigoi on fire before he even knew I was there. But no, we're gonna have the Dampiers fight them with magical sticks that are blessed with this exact same magic, because our magic is blessed by God. This trope usually bothers me because unless the protector and the person that they're protecting are conjoined at the hip, there is no way that they're gonna be around all the time to protect the person. And who better to help them protect themselves than the person themselves? And number 2 on my list of tropes that I don't like is the chosen one trope. Now, normally if there's a chosen one with a prophecy, usually you see the villain do one of 2 things. 1, the villain tries to do everything in their power to stop this prophecy from coming true. In a way, their actions of trying to stop the chosen one end up giving the chosen one motivation to step up and stop the villain from doing what they're doing. Or the villain completely doesn't believe in this prophecy and does nothing and loses anyway. Why? Or this chosen one, it feels like they just drew straws to pick this random person who has no skill to do what this supposed chosen one was able to do. It makes me question, why was he chosen when any other person, any other member of this kingdom, this country, whatever, could have stepped up and done what this character did? Or the other part that I hate is when writers decide that because they've given their character a chosen one label, it gives them a good reason to make the character either overpowered or their powers come overly easy to them and give them no reason to struggle. There are a few chosen ones that I do want to say I think are done right. Aang from Avatar: The Last Airbender, Emmett from the Lego Movie, Link from The Legend of Zelda, and if you really look at it by extension, Harry Potter from Harry Potter as. And my number 1 trope. This is the trope that single-handedly ruined the Shadow and Bone trilogy for me. I want to be normal. When the character will dwell chapters, episodes, or entire books on the fact that they are not like everybody else and hate it. Unless you are faced with some sort of extreme discrimination in the context of your world, I do not want to hear this sentence coming out of your mouth. Alina from Shadow and Bone, wishing that she didn't have any powers so she could have a boring life making babies with Mal. Don't even get me started on Zoe Redbird. This is also why I prefer Tom Holland's Spider-Man over Tobey Maguire's. Tom Holland's Spider-Man actually enjoys being Spider-Man. He loves it. This phrase annoys me as much as the "I'm not like other girls" trope. Every time I see this trope, I want to grab the characters by the shoulders and say, can you go back to being normal? If yes, then do it so I can focus on a more interesting character. If you can't, then you better learn to live with it. I prefer characters that love what they do. Characters that accept the fact that they are different, that love who they are. Normal is overrated. I know that's a cliched line to say, but it is. If you were just like everybody else, I would not want to be reading about you. Characters hating what they are, it's a lazy writing way to add depth, and oftentimes adds unnecessary filler to a book or any other media. This is the trope that I think I will most likely quit a book if I see this trope. So yeah, folks, those are the tropes that I do not like. Like I said, there are, even my #1 trope at some point can probably be used well. Sorry if I got a little too angry for this video, but that's my opinion. If you love these tropes, I'm glad. That is your opinion, and I'm glad you can enjoy this because these are just tropes that I can't. These are all based on my perspective. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.